Hello, my name is Matthew, and over the past few weeks I've been reading a whole bunch of stuff, and I haven't really made any particular videos, and I've had a few trains of thought that I would try to um, discuss. The topic is tragedy, so I've spent a lot of time the past few weeks rereading all of these tragedians. Reading Sophocles and Aeschylus and Euripides. I reread the Oedipus cycle, Oedipus Rex, Oedipus at Colonus, Antigone, and then the Orestia by Aeschylus, a trilogy of plays, Agamemnon, the Bearers, and the Eumenides. And I've read these a few times now, as a whole, uh, as a trilogy, and they really are powerful. The Orestia, it begins with this cycle of vengeance and revenge, and it just seems like with the present course of action, with men killing other men, and so sons avenging their fathers' deaths, and just this constant cycle of revenge. And in Oedipus Rex and Oedipus at Colonus, where you have the downfall of a man, and we just see him go through exile to death, and then the actions of his daughter, and then some plays by Euripides. I think I actually did a video on the Bacchae recently, but notably Medea, and for the most part, maybe exclusively, but for the most part, the thing that really stuck in my mind was that these tragedies are set in the past. And I don't mean as a modern reader, I'm reading plays that were set in ancient Greece. What I mean is the audience that would have watched these plays in ancient Greece were seeing on stage stories of action that took place a long time ago, essentially the time of the, 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 the Trojan War and all of the aftermath, or even past then into this kind of mythological past. So it's these tales that are universal because they're always set in the complete distant past. The one notable thing about Euripides, I'm thinking specifically about Medea, is it's almost like with Aeschylus and Sophocles, you can just see these plots. Everything is just so tightly wound, and with these trilogies in particular, they're just these little puzzles that are perfect and tragic. And it's almost like Euripides like saw this construction and thought, well, instead of making these perfect little plays, what if I just make them the worst? What if I have characters that just say and do the absolute worst thing that could be done? So Medea's plan, we have Medea and her husband, they are on this far offshore, they're away from home. The husband goes off and has an affair. Medea finds out about it. Hilariously, the husband says, well, no, I was doing this for us. This is a very rich, important person that I'm having an affair with, and that's going to help out our family. And Medea's answer to all this, to just kill everybody, to kill her children, and she says to this violence, like, it's painful, and if it's painful for me, it's painful for you. I'm just raising Earth. Everything is on fire. Brutal. So I've also been reading short stories by Kafka. The Hunger Artist, In the Penal Colony. In the Penal Colony might be just one of my favorite short stories by Kafka, and I think I made a video about that one too. The Burrow, just this idea of a human-like creature or creature just burrowed away. And a couple other stories. And I often think about the absurdity of Kafka. And I was reading these stories and actually thinking about the realism. And unlike the Greek tragedians, where we have action taking place in the far past, now we're in a otherworldly place. We're in a different land, a different world. It could be the present, but it's a skewed alternate reality. And I was actually thinking about Aesop's fables, and it's almost like that. Imagine the absurdity that you would find in Aesop's fables if, instead of being treated as children's nursery rhymes, they were written to be realistic, as realistically treated as they could be. And instead of being parables or allegories, they would come off as outlandish and absurd. And I was really getting that feeling that there's this instead of the absurdity, it was the realism and the tragedy that you can find in telling stories that are parallels and making your own conclusions. And the last thing I want to bring up is I read Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. The first time that I read this play, really enjoyed it. I'll show its great cover. And it's a story of Willy Loman, the salesman, who, as an adult, looks back on his life and realizes that he was a failure. And again, like Euripides, it's almost as if Arthur Miller just thought, at every moment, every instance, every opportunity, how can I make this guy's life worse? How can I show that it was more depressing, more heartbreaking? We meet his wife, his children. There's Biff Loman, Happy Loman. I can't remember the wife's name. And we get Willy Loman throughout the play, bringing us back and forth throughout his life, having recollections. His memories change the setting on stage, so we can have these flashbacks, which are his remembrances, and they scissor into one another, making his life sadder. So as a young man, when he's bragging about being a great salesperson and he's giving his young children life lessons, and then to see him at his present day age and realize the advice that he's giving his children was terrible, and now his children are essentially failures and embarrassments. He was bragging when he was a young man about how he can go into any town and everybody knows his name, and he has this great Chevy. Everyone's impressed with his Chevy, and now he's this traveling salesperson where nobody knows his name. He's having constant trouble with his car. He goes home, his children don't like him, his wife is upset with him, the car is breaking down, the refrigerator is breaking down, and at some point, him and his wife are talking, and they say, "Why don't you go to your boss and ask for an advance? You've been with this company for 35 years, 30 years, whatever. Your boss, you were there when he was named. You were there when he was born." And it's treated as if it's the only option. Like they're going to lose the house, they're going to lose the car, they're going to lose everything. Goes to work, goes in the office, asks for the advance, and is fired. He's kicked out on his butt. There's a contentious relationship between Biff, the son, and Willie, the father. Biff never went to college. He had this. There was a potential to have this football scholarship, I think, but he failed a class. And all he had to do was take a summer course. He'd pass the class, he would get the scholarship, and he didn't do it. And at that point, and for the rest of their lives, he had a bad relationship with his father. As the play goes on, it's revealed that this traveling salesperson, Willie Loman, is also cheating on his wife. And there was one day that he's in this seedy motel with some woman, and Biff surprises him, comes in the door, and seeking counsel. And instead of getting advice, he just finds out that his father is cheating on his mother. And it changes his whole course of life. It changes his whole life. This goes on. I don't want to spoil anything, but he dies. And the notable thing, and the reason that I'm talking about all of these things, is the treatment of tragedy. And so, in this, it's written, maybe 100 years ago at this point, but it's still very much present day. This is a play that you can read today or when it was published, and it was the here and now. It was a stark reality, a true example of a life that can be led. People that think that they're doing the right thing, having moral mistakes, things that they might think are small little things that change, ruin their life and the life of everyone around them. And I found it really depressing. Really a depressing novel. And with all of these books that you can see so much darkness and tragedy, and also life. There's so much life in these stories, but in particular, the power that you can find in stories that are set in the distant past, and the power of the stories from a faraway land or an alternate universe, and the power of the stories of things that are set very much in the present and the here and now. So they're just some of my thoughts. I've kind of read all of these things consecutively, so that's sort of why I've been thinking about all these things. So just some thoughts on some books, all really good. Okay. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment if you would like. Thank you, and take care.